And I had to leave my career as a biopharmaceutical scientist because my body just couldn't keep up. I couldn't even hold a conversation. I was so just overwhelmed with this medical mystery that doctors could not figure out.
Hmm.
And that's when I understood that I needed to heal in my own way because Western medicine at the time wasn't able to help me the way I thought it was supposed to. So I had to look at different things. I had to try different possibilities and really unravel what I thought I had known about my life, about the medical world, and just everything. And the deeper I got into it, I finally realized that everything was connected.
Welcome to Tried and True with a Dash of Woo, where we blend rock solid tips with a little bit of magic. I'm Renee Bowen, your host, life and business coach, and professional photographer at your service. We are all about getting creative, diving into your business, and playing with manifestation over here. So, are you ready to get inspired and have some fun? Let's dive in. Hey friends, welcome back to Tried and True with a Dash of Woo. I'm your host, Renee Bowen. It is so good to be with you here again. I took a couple of weeks off. It's been a busy summer, but not busy in the way, like not productive, unfortunately. I feel like it's been busy, but without it being as productive as I needed it to be. So I am very much in my Virgo-ness in the last, couple of weeks here, trying to get nice and grounded and also planning for a busy fall. If you're a photographer, you know this is our busy season, right? Up until December, we kind of go, 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 and it can get a little chaotic. So I'm right there with you. I still run a full-time photography business as well as a full-time coaching business, and I create courses and programs, and I have group coaching as well. So I have a lot going on right along with you. So I want to make sure that you guys are remembering to stay aligned, to stay in your moment, right? Not to get too far ahead of yourself. That's really one of the things I've been coaching myself on. So hopefully that is helpful for you as well to just really be mindful and intentional about each moment and not get too far ahead of yourself, because that's where we get really overwhelmed and start to shut down. And my guest today is going to help you with all of that as well. So you're going to love this conversation. You're going to love her. Her name is Lauren Morgan, and she is a trauma recovery and business coach, an energy master and mystic, and the founder of Wild Wisdom. She empowers frustrated coaches, healers, and entrepreneurs to overcome imposter syndrome, their limiting beliefs, and self-sabotage so they can turn their pain into purpose, transform their wounds into wisdom, and create their soul-driven and heart-centered business. So yeah, she and I are super aligned on all of that. And we really go deep into a lot of the different ways that creative entrepreneurs can remember who they are, to get back into alignment, and some tips too, if you are just sort of starting this journey of healing. So you are going to get a lot out of this episode, I know. And I've put all of the information you need in the show notes as always. So let's dive right into this conversation with Lauren. Hey, Lauren. So I want to just jump right into this topic of our businesses having a soul. You speak about this. It's kind of something I've heard you mention before. Maybe a lot of my listeners haven't really heard it that way, framed that way before. So what does that really mean to you?
Oh, I love this question. And thank you for just like bringing this right up, right? Like, let's dive into the good stuff. When you really kind of dive into your own spiritual enlightenment and journey, you understand that everything has energy.
Yes.
Everything has a soul, we could say, because every living thing is made up of energy. So if it has energy and then therefore has a soul.
Mm.
So how would our business be any different than that? So when we create our business, we are putting our love into it. We're putting our dreams, our inspirations, and even our pains and our hurts. And so the really big takeaway as far as understanding about our business having a soul is that it can also need clearing. It can also need work on it. And so when you understand that our business is this leaving or breathing, living, always changing and evolving thing, just as we are, we can start to understand the deeper concept that as we grow and evolve, our business does too.
Mm-hmm. I love
But
that.
just as we have relationships with different people, we can sometimes grow with our business, or maybe our business isn't growing with us or in a different direction. And so by having this concept and really understanding at a deeper level of the energetic level, we can open up this conversation, this two-way communication with the soul of our business to know, what does it need? What is it asking from us? What does it need clearing of? What is no longer serving our business and no longer serving ourselves so that we can become more in alignment together?
Yeah, that's so big because, you know, I think a lot of us, especially if we've been in the same line of business, right? Or like doing the same thing for a while, it can start to feel a little robotic and hypnotic, not in a great way, right? Like we'll talk about
Yeah, yeah,
hypnosis in a
yeah.
good way. But, we kind of get into, I guess you would call it a rut, or you get into like the day in, the day out. And I feel like it's easy, especially for creatives with really spicy brains, to kind of fall prey to shiny object syndrome and, well, maybe I need this and maybe I need that because, we're inundated with a lot of stuff and our brains are very active. But I also think that has a lot to do with, and I'm sure you probably see this a lot too with your clients, is that happens when we're not really in alignment with our business and the soul of our business and the energetics of where we want to be operating from, right? And so how do you work with your clients, and what are some of the things that you do as well to make sure that you are doing that, to make sure that you are attracting what it is you're meant to attract, right? And feel really in alignment with the soul of your business and also like where you want this to go, like clarity on that quote unquote goal.
Yeah, that's a beautiful question. And a lot of times, what I've come to see with my clients, and really most recently have a really interesting story where she was so set in her way of what she wanted her business to be. She had like this 10-step plan, if not more. And on paper, she was doing everything quote unquote right, right? Using the air marks, doing everything right of working with these different business coaches, but nothing was really like working for her. So she actually came to me out of complete desperation, and I have no problem saying that. She was like, nothing else is working. I don't know what the frick to do. Just help me. She's like, what the hell is going on? And within the first 3 weeks of working with her, there was definitely this energetic offset of who she was, who she wanted to serve, and what was being asked of her as far as service goes. It's like that selfless service piece. She was so stuck in her mind of what she thought she wanted to do. She didn't allow herself to kind of tap into her own true wisdom as to what fulfilled her, what felt right, what was in this true, again, this alignment piece as who she was meant to serve. And upon sitting with each other and diving into more or less meditation and hypnosis and the subconscious unprogramming, we uncovered that her soul clients was not at the time who she was directing her attention towards. It was a complete offset. And when we kind of dove in more, there's all these limiting beliefs as to her being afraid to really step into her own power, being her afraid to shine her light in her own authentic way, because it was really interestingly enough turning into more of an escapism where she could say, okay, well, my business isn't working and that's okay because I've tried everything, but she just let it be the fact that she wasn't putting in the soul aspect of it.
Hmm.
And when we kind of sat down again, it took additional two more sessions together to really kind of tap into the soul of her business, what her soul was asking for. And when she surrendered to that process and said, wow, okay, so who my ego told me I was supposed to serve, who the conditioning was telling me I was supposed to serve, who my background was telling me I was supposed to serve, wasn't really in alignment with who I am as a person, who I'm trying to become, and what service I want to give to the world.
Yeah. I see that so much, don't you? Like, and I get it because I've been there. And I know you've definitely walked through that path. And I kind of want to dive into that a little bit too, because we all come from, a lot, right? That everybody has something that we've dealt with. It could be a big T, big trauma, little trauma, like whatever it is, it has impacted us. It is definitely programmed that unconscious. And there's a lot of healing that can be done, obviously, through practices like meditation, hypnosis, shamanism. And I feel like a lot of a lot of women, especially, if they're not, you and I've been in this spiritual sort of like path for a little bit, right? Like, so it's safe to say, like, we kind of get that. But like, there may be a lot of people listening who are just maybe sort of like dipping their feet into that or open to it because they're listening to this podcast, but not really sure what that really looks like, what that means. And so, can you speak a little bit about your own sort of path through that? And I mean, you are a biopharmaceutical scientist and
Yeah.
your life shifted in a big way. So, let's kind of open that up a little bit. And if you don't mind sharing a little bit about how that took you here.
No, not at all. I am an open book and I love to share because I believe when we share and work through our pains, we just help ignite other people to work through their own traumas and their own pains. And we heal ourselves by healing the world, or we heal the world by healing ourselves.
Hmm.
And my story started off at 10 years old. I was clinically depressed. And by age 19, I'd already tried to kill myself 4 times.
Wow.
Yes. And throughout my teenage years, I was masking my own emotional pain by burning my own flesh.
Wow.
By age 21 was the last time I got high. Age 25 was the last time I made myself throw up to feel smaller, to fit in, to feel beautiful. All these things that society told me I was tr to be the perfect standard size. I was putting physical pain on myself to try to fit in these boxes.
Hmm.
And then by the time age 28 came, I was drinking obsessively. And as a biopharmaceutical scientist, I always loved the science side of things, but it wasn't fulfilling me. It wasn't driving me forward. It wasn't giving me this like passion that I was longing for. And as my body more or less felt like it's starting to give in on itself, I was having seizures almost every day for 3 years. And I had to leave my career as a biopharmaceutical scientist because my body just couldn't keep up. I couldn't even hold a conversation. I was so just overwhelmed with this medical mystery that doctors could not figure out.
Mm.
And that's when I understood that I needed to heal in my own way because Western medicine at the time wasn't able to help me the way I thought it was supposed to. So I had to look at different things. I had to try different possibilities and really unravel what I thought I had known about my life, about the medical world, and just everything. And the deeper I got into it, I finally realized that everything was connected. All my physical pain, emotional pain, the medical mystery, my spiritual sufferings, it was all connected to a trauma, a big T that I had when I was 6 years old when I was raped.
Oh, wow.
And I had this, I would say, time of clarity when I was walking my dogs behind the field in my house. And I can remember this day so vividly because the sky was so blue, the grass was just so tall, and they were just, my dogs were just bouncing up and down, just popping up, like having so much joy just running through the field. And in that moment, I get so overwhelmed with emotion
Mm.
because I realized I had not felt that much joy in a long, long time. So the emotion I was feeling was anger and jealousy and a lot of pain that was coming forward all at the same time by seeing something else having that much joy that I had been longing for.
Mm.
And so I fell to the ground. I was screaming. I was crying. It was actually really dramatic because I raised two middle fingers up to the sky and I gave the universe a giant fuck you.
Yeah.
I was not subtle about it. I was just like, damn you to hell.
Yeah.
And I crumbled and I started screaming and crying and releasing these animalistic noises from my entire body. And I don't even know how long I was there. It must have been, it felt like hours. But there was this soft voice that came through saying that life was not meant to be this difficult or this painful. Life was supposed to be filled with joy. So it was in that moment, that rock bottom of rock bottoms, I feel like a lot of us really have. We all have this precipice where we feel like we can't go on any longer.
Hmm.
And that is the journey we see when we're at this crossroads of who we have been and who we're meant to be in this lifetime. And some are a little more dramatic than others, and some come on really profoundly when the universe is really trying to push you in a certain direction. And it was in that moment that I made a promise to myself for the very first time that I was going to love myself unconditionally and I was going to heal myself unconditionally. because I wanted to know what it felt to have joy in my life every day. And that's what really led me to learning about shamanism and Ayurveda, hypnosis. And when you put all these different pieces together, all these different modalities, even from ancient times, are kind of starting to come back into, the mainstream now because we're really starting to see the separation that we have acquired between our lives and back from our ancestors. What they really have all in common is communing with nature and
Hmm.
sitting with the powers of nature. And as I'm outside here on the ground, my shoes are off. I have no shoes on. My butt is on the ground, and it feels so blissful just to hear the birds, feel the earth beneath me, feel the wind going through my hair. And so anyone that's in this area of their life where they're like, I don't know what to do right now. I feel like at a crossroads where I know where I want to go, who I want to be, but there's all these other pieces in my past that are still kind of showing up for me, these different triggers. What do I do? Find time to sit in nature.
Yes, absolutely. I know. I'm watching the leaves just fall behind you. Like, I don't, yeah. And you guys might have thought that this was like a fake background behind her. If you're watching this on YouTube, it's not. It's real. It's not pretty. It just kind of looks like it's fake because it's so pretty. But I'm watching all the leaves fall and I'm like literally envisioning myself there with you because that has been something. I just had this conversation with my coaching group. I think it was last week. And yeah, I was on our group call and everyone is just feeling a little discombobulated, right? Like the world's just crazy. Like there's things happen, there's all these things, and everyone's businesses and coming out of summer into fall. There's just a lot going on. And I definitely have been in that as well. I've got three grown kids and had to, help one move and then another one move. And it was just like a lot going on. And so I also have been feeling not grounded, not, you know, uh, in my joyful place, really. And one of the things that I was telling them is that what I've been doing, I've been called to do, and I was like, maybe this will work with you guys too, is I have to get out in nature. I have to get on the ground. And I was telling them a funny story because my husband and I walk the dog every night. And we live in a very suburban area. So it's not like I can just go to the woods. I grew up in that sort of environment, but I live in the suburbs of Los Angeles. So, we have it, but we have to sort of like go to it. So we walk our dog to this really pretty park though every day. And we got up to the park and I threw my Birkenstocks off immediately like I always do to get on the grass. But then I like started laying on the grass. He's like, "Are you okay?" I couldn't get close enough to the earth. I was like, "I just need to lay here for a bit."
Yes, I love that. It's like I am just photosynthesizing right now. I'm just being
Literally.
one with the grass. I can picture like making like grass angels, right?
Yes.
Snow angels in the grass. Just let me be. Just let me be.
Seriously, I was like, and he was like, he took a video. He was like, he's like, I know that this is your thing. You're a Virgo, you're like Earth, like this is, he goes, but I don't think I've ever seen you quite this like dramatically, like I have to be on the ground. I was like, no, you don't understand. Like, this is so what I need right now. I just really feel like a lot of us. So I love that you brought that piece into it because so many times people tell me, first of all, I'm stuck, I feel I'm in my own way, etc. And also, I'm so busy, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, you have access to some sort of outside space. Like it can be a small piece of grass. It doesn't need to be a beautiful forest if we can't all access that. Get outside, get on the ground, literally ground yourself daily. That is like one of the main things that I do. And I feel like it just makes a huge difference just in general, like across the board. It shifts my energy almost immediately.
Oh, 100%. 100%. And a lot of my clients too, like you said, are in like the hustling, bustling the city and they're just not able to access like the nature that I have here. But get a pot of dirt,
Mm-hmm.
right? I have clients who did this. They not potting soil, but actually like dirt itself. They have a jar of dirt and they just put their hands in it.
Mm-hmm.
They just allow it to recharge them by just playing and really just feeling the tactical pieces of dirt.
Yes.
There's
Yes.
small things that can do so, so much.
So much. I know. I am a photographer as well. And so a lot of my sessions I'm lucky enough to go to the beach for. And, a lot of people have like a lot of people I find are funny about sand. They're like, oh, I don't love the beach. I don't love sand. I'm like, same thing. I just get me in the sand, like my feet in the sand. It
Yeah.
just completely changes my whole vibration. So I can tell, like, if I have clients, like, if I haven't been out there for a while, I'm like, I need to go actually take my own trip to the beach because I'm missing getting that. There's something about the ions, the energy, something about being there that is like incredibly calming for me. And as a, baseline anxious person, that's something that I just have to put into my ritual, right? And so what are some of the things too, like that you've done? I love that. I love the dirt little trick. That is pretty awesome, actually. Because even if you live in a city, right, you can
Mhm.
pot plants, you can find little different ways. What are some of the other things that you found help some of your clients that obviously you have access to beautiful surroundings daily because you guys are like off grid. So that's really amazing. But what are some of the other things that maybe help people get in alignment and to open up to that intuition and how to discern what that intuition is as opposed to the ego as well?
Yeah, yes. So I always recommend just working with any and all the elements that you feel drawn to. Some people are more drawn to fire, some people are more drawn to the water or maybe the wind. And there's a reason that this element is calling to you. And you can bring in this element through different ways. So you can light a candle, you can have your own little ceremony with it. You can take a bath. You can allow, like, as you're maybe even showering, feeling the water like go over your body and through your body, allowing it to wash away anything that you don't need anymore, anything that's holding resistance or stagnation in your body, visualizing it penetrating you in this most beautiful way, elegant, blissful, serene way, and just going down the drain, taking with it anything that you need to release. And
Yeah.
meditation's a great way, visualizations. And if you think about it, as far as a meditation goes, in all these calming visualizations that we do, very few of them, well, none of them that I've encountered take place in a busy city, right? They don't have you imagine that you're stuck in the back of a cab or on the subway or something, right? It's like, imagine you're in the serene forest or by an ocean or a bubbling brook, right?
Yeah.
And it just speaks to, again, the power of it and how our bodies can be so regulated by just using our imagination of it.
Yes.
And,
Yes.
and you can take it a whole nother level instead of just visualizing it, you're feeling it. So there's this saying the shamans used to use about praying for rain, but instead of praying for rain, they pray rain, where they
Mhm.
allow themselves to feel it touching their skin. They allow themselves to hear it hitting like the roofs of where they're living and just making a full body submersion through your where you are. Maybe you are in the back of a cab and you need some grounding. Visualize what it would be like to be
Mhm.
outside in nature, whatever element that you're feeling called to use. Because they each have their own very unique energetics, and we can use each of their energetics for something different.
Yeah, that feeling part is so key, and it's something I kind of talk about a lot over here on the podcast and in coaching as well. And something I really just deeply believe it makes such a difference with, like you said, praying for rain. Well, being it, being
Yes.
that energy of what you desire, right? So if you want more peace, be peace. If you want more love, be love. Like create that in yourself first. And the universe will just bring it right back to you because it's just energetics. And I know that a lot of people tend to have maybe some blocks about that or how it's I think a lot of us, especially creatives, get lost in the how, right? Because it sounds really simple and honestly it kind of is. I mean, I'm not saying it's easy, but it is kind of simple. And allowing ourselves, I feel like, to put that ego stuff, the programming, all the things that we've been like programmed with about life is hard, money is, you need to work very hard for everything you do, all the things that we've basically been, taught, so to speak. Um, you really have to be willing to be someone different if you want that something different. And that does mean that unprogramming. So for me, things like meditation and hypnosis have been really an integral part of that and just allowing myself to be consistent and ritualistic, really, in that belief of being in it. And, you know, the whole like affirmation thing, but calling it to you by being that version of yourself, if that makes any sense. And I think meditation changes that too. Being in nature changes that too. So it's like a fast track to those places that you are desiring.
Oh, yes, 100%. And like you said, it's not a really complicated topic. It's just something that we times once we feel that resistance piece, we make it more complicated than it really is because we're
Mhm.
sometimes really afraid to sit into the uncomfortability aspect of it.
That's a big piece of it right there. And that leads me right to that because you've gone to these dark places to do healing. I've done that myself. I've seen people do it. I've worked with people. That resistance is really hard for some people to walk through, but there's so much gold in that. Can you speak a little bit to that? I mean, maybe just from your own personal journey with it and also from what you've seen, how impactful it can be to really shift everything for you when you're willing to be uncomfortable and to sit with it.
Yes, it is such a beautiful topic, and I really love this piece because I have this saying I love to share is that we turn our pain into our purpose and our wounds into wisdom. And if we're wanting to show our light, our true selves, and just be of a place of service to the world, we have to be willing to sit in our darkness in order to find our light. And there's other concept too that some people don't like to really think about, but we need discomfort in our lives to show us where our boundaries are, to show us what's working for us and what's not. Because without that piece of discomfort, we don't know what feels really good and what we know is not fit for us anymore.
Hmm.
And the more I sat in my own inner darkness, the more it showed me how much capacity that I have to hold the light, to hold the envelope and the container for other people. So you are able to turn what was your traumas and your woundings into your superpower.
Yeah. And that's where that wisdom, that wise, inner wisdom lies. That
Yes.
contrast though is so important. Seeing the contrast, if everything just was hunky dory and from the get-go, it would be really difficult for us to find that purpose. I really do believe in that. One of the things I walk people through is finding their purpose because you know I love to tie strategy and mood together, and people don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it, right? So
Mhm.
we have to be connected. I really believe we have to be connected to that purpose. And you've been doing it anyway. Like it's there. It's like taking out your highlighter and just like highlighting it. Be like, okay, yes, yes, this is the thing that lights me up. That is heart centered, that sort of thing. And when we do, that's when we can draw so much more of that to us. But I really do believe that that's a really big piece of it is sitting with it. And when I walk people through that process, that's a really big piece of it because we kind of go back. We have to kind of go back and see like what are some of the main things that were really impactful for you in your life in childhood, or the age of 7, ideally, right? Because that's when everything sort of gets solidified. And there are some things that are not comfortable. But what I always tell them is that there's gold there, right? Like if you're willing to, all roads lead to your why, as Simon Sinek always says. Like you've got to be willing to uncover that and to sit with it so that you can move through it, right? The only way out is through. That's,
Yes.
kind
Yes.
of hard to hear for some people sometimes, but like it really, really, and honestly, I feel like the more you do that and the more willing you are to surrender to that, the faster you do get through it too.
Oh, 100%. It's like this cosmic game of chutes and ladders. I always compare it to is because you can feel like you're doing really well high and climb these ladders and then obviously hit this chute, right? And you kind of gum back down a little bit. But through those times and every day, you're learning resources and tools that kind of help more or less fast track you, like you're saying, to kind of get you up that ladder again.
Hmm.
And healing is never this linear approach, right? And it's not supposed to be because we have to keep going into those pieces of our shadow in order to bring those pieces the light, to heal those pieces, to work with those pieces, and know that it's okay to be uncomfortable. that's showing us something. That's a really powerful moment of breakthrough when you can say, yes, I'm uncomfortable, but I'm going to sit with this anyway. I'm not going to ignore it. I'm not going to try to watch maybe some Grey's Anatomy to try to like do something different and try to trick myself into hiding it again. I'm going to sit with this discomfort. And sometimes that's all it takes is just
Hmm.
acknowledging that, yes, I am uncomfortable and I'm feeling this someplace in my body, maybe putting your hand there, breathing through it, whatever you feel called to do by listening to your body. It can really unlock so many different magical pieces. And that's a lot of times where people's intuition gets stronger because you're making that mind-body connection.
Very, very cool. Yeah. I've always been fascinated by that. I was a massage therapist for many, many years, many moons ago, like a long time ago. And the school that I went to was very much about the mind body connection, obviously, because it was a very, spiritual based massage therapy school. Even people like myself who have been doing this for a long time, it's still easy to sort of like numb out, like you were saying, right? Like, oh, I'm just going to turn on the TV. Oh, I'm just going to do this. Oh, I'm just going to eat this, or I'm just going to like, do something where it's going to shut that piece off. Because it is difficult and it feels very uncomfortable, but what we resist persists. We know that. It's just
Yeah.
energetics, right? And by turning that on its head and being like, no, no, my unconscious is not going to drive the car today. I'm driving the car. It really does put you in such a powerful, you get your power back by surrendering the control. And that control piece is a really big thing that I see a lot of female entrepreneurs struggle with, especially women my age and, even in their 30s and 40s, but like that need to control every single aspect of your life so that everyone else is okay. But then you're the one on the hook and you're the one who ends up being very not okay, right? So how can women, especially, like, what are some of your thoughts on how they can break that piece of it as well? Obviously, there's a lot of unprogramming, but in particular, that I feel like it's this codependency wound, right? Like of that we've been sort of like genetically, if you wanted, or you can call it genetic, but energetic genetically as well, told that that's how we quote unquote should be, making sure everybody else is okay, making sure everybody has this, overdoing everything for everyone else. And that leaves us sort of like on the back burner. You know what I mean?
Yes, yeah, I can really relate to this topic because as being a former scientist, right, everything had to be controlled, it's like to the finest minute detail, running mass spectrometers and creating these more or less experiments to test pharmaceuticals. Like there was no room for error. And I used to believe that if you couldn't prove it on a graph or a diagram or scientifically, it was just bullshit. That was my whole thought process, which feels like 100 years ago. But on the flip side, it was really, really interesting to see and to feel and to observe that as I released that control, as I was no longer attached to it and released the idea of it, the outcome had to be a certain way in my life, it felt like I had more control by
Mm,
surrendering to it. And that's what absolutely blew my mind because it doesn't make any sense, but it doesn't really have to. There's some things that's kind of left to be magical in this world. And as far as how to, I guess, navigate through that process, again, I just say go back to nature.
mhm.
Nature is always teaching us something. And there's times where we have to just allow ourselves to release some sort of emotion. And this is the biggest thing I see a lot with my clients is they're holding in emotion. They're controlling their own emotions. And
Yes.
that's a lot of place where it starts is within us and that mindset piece. And we're telling ourselves it's not okay to feel this. Or we see someone who's sad and we say, don't feel sad because X, Y, and Z. We're then trying to control their emotions. It's okay to be sad. Even if it doesn't logically make sense, it's okay to feel everything that you're feeling because emotions are the most honest expression that we have of being human.
Yeah.
And the more you honor your body's sensations of feeling grief or anger or any sort of emotional release that's coming forward, giving it that space to really to do that. whether it's beating a drum per se, or screaming into a pillow, or punching the heck out of a pillow, something to allow that that inner grr to come through. I'm gonna declare that official saying now. Allow your inner grr to come through.
I love that.
But when you really start to just honor ourselves as being human and having these emotional releases, everything else just kind of doesn't seem to be as need of control so much. Because
Mhm.
as you're allowing yourself to be expressed, to be heard, to be felt, to be seen in your own way, you're allowing yourself to see yourself. Those other pieces of control that you are so grasping for, they just seem to melt away.
Yeah. And that really is a big part of the thing because I hear a lot of women especially talking about how even just like showing up for their business online, right? Is like, oh my God, I can't get myself to, even make content or be on camera or whatever because there's this control, like this need to control how we are perceived, basically, at all times. And even though there's been like this, you know, I guess not push, but there's just been this more openness of authenticity and being real online. But even that tends to be a little performative once it's done for a while, right? And so
Yeah.
it can all feel very overwhelming, I think, to a lot of entrepreneurs when they're, trying to run their business and trying to be in alignment and call in the right clients and, being in this place of enjoying each moment for the moment instead of trying to like force the whole thing. It can still be hard because then you have to like show up online. You have to be visible here. You have to be this, that, and the other. So it can feel like a lot. And I hope that if you guys who are listening, if you guys are dealing with some of that, that you really kind of heard what we've been talking about here, especially about getting out in nature, getting outside and grounding and listening to your body as well, because it does have the answers and it will end up suffering. The body is what ends up suffering, as you know, when we continue to not allow ourselves to feel what we are meant to feel. So feel it, if it's
Yeah.
gonna, it's definitely scarier than it, you know what I mean? I think we make it scarier than it actually really is. And
Mhm.
find someone to support you if it is scary on your own. Like there's support for you. There's so much out here now. There's so many people doing this amazing work. So find the people who can help you get to that place if that's what you feel called to do. And Lauren, where do you like to connect with people best? I know you've got a website and Instagram and all that stuff, but tell us a little bit about what you do and how people can connect with you.
Oh, thank you for asking this. So I have two amazing ways to connect with me. If you just want to learn a little more about who I am and some teachings and some just free stuff, you can connect with me on Instagram at Lauren's Wild Wisdom. And I have a website called wildwisdomcoach.com. And I love working with entrepreneurs who just feel so frustrated, right? They're at this point where, like, I know I want to serve, I know I want to grow, but something's not working and I can't figure out what it is. That is my area of expertise.
That's awesome.
And we work yeah, we work very heavily with the elements, with a certain, like, there's five main elements I work with, and we work through each one of them in a very particular way. We ground ourselves, we release old programming, we have a fire ceremony together, we transform together, and we really understand together what the energetics are of your business, of who you are, and what your soul clients are asking for. We
Mm,
learn all about selfless service and just really aligning all those three pieces together. So when you're running your business, it's not such like this hassle of trying to chase those clients. They just come to you because they
mhm.
feel the energetic pull. They feel it. It's just so natural. And it's such a beautiful way to just share your gifts with the world, to share your magic with the world, because we all are all such incredible beings and we have so much to offer. Every single one of us. I really truly believe that down to the deepest of my bones.
Yes.
And when you just say, okay, universe, I'm here to serve, I'm here to give my light, you are then shown like these little breadcrumb trails, piece by piece by piece, to follow to get you right where you need to be.
Yes, I believe that too. I love that. And I hope you guys really heard that because it is true. It is true. And like I said before, it doesn't have to be complicated. We're the ones who do that. The overthinking and things like that. That's not your intuition. That's yeah. And it's there. You have access to it. You have access to all of this. If you feel like you don't have it, you do, I promise. And it is there for you to find. So if you feel that whisper, follow it, follow those breadcrumbs. Like you said, they do take you to some amazing places. And so thank you so much for being here with us. This was awesome. I will put all of your stuff in the show notes for people as well, so they can connect with you offline and online. Um, and find out more about you. And and again, I love following your journey into just your personal life, the off grid. You guys are redoing a bus, right? You have a camper.
Yes.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah.
That it's one of my husband and I have these dreams of doing that as well. So who knows? Maybe that's what's next for us in the next couple of years. Yeah, we're feeling definitely the call to maybe mosey out of California, but we will see. We will see where that takes us. And one last question before we wrap up. I always ask my people, what's your big three, your astrological big three? And if you know your human design or anything like that.
Yeah. So I am a manifestor by human design,
Love it.
and I am Pisces, Pisces, Capricorn.
Wow, that's amazing. Yeah, that makes sense. That makes a lot of sense with like who you are, like what you do, and just seeing your socials and stuff. Very Pisces energy. I love it. Pisces is my sister sign, and I have a lot of female friends who are Pisces. So it's also my North Node. So that makes sense too. So
Yes, it does. Just
thank
going with
you
the
so
flow. Just,
much.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It's my goal in life. Basically, it's what I'm trying to work toward is to become more Piscean in this life.
I love it.
Thanks again. Thanks again. And yeah, I'll talk soon. That was such a beautiful discussion. I hope that you enjoyed it as much as I did, as much as Lauren did. She and I were talking about it offline about how super yummy and good vibes that all was. And I hope that you guys really got that as well, that it resonated with you. And I love that she did this podcast from literally the forest. Like I am kind of right there with her in my mind's eye. Meanwhile, in Southern California, it is still a little hot. So not quite fall yet, but it was nice to see all those leaves falling behind her. And for those of you who are in cooler climates, I hope you're enjoying your nice fall weather. For those of you, if you've been impacted by any of this weather that we've had and the floods, I really hope you're safe. My heart is with you. I grew up in South Louisiana, so I've been through many, many, many hurricanes, many floods. I've lost cars and lots of property in floods. And it is really awful, the destruction that we're seeing, especially coming out of Asheville. So my heart's with you. And if you are in need of anything, please reach out and let me know. As always, you can hit me up over on Instagram at Renee Bowen. I'd love to just chat with you and connect with you there anyway. And if you are a photographer who is struggling with your marketing, your mindset, if you are confused about what you should be pricing yourself at, if you really just feel lost and alone and like nobody in your life gets what you're trying to do, and if you need guidance and coaching on marketing and mindset, that's what I do. And I've got this perfect group program for you called Elevate. It's super accessible. It's only $49 a month. You get a lot for that, let me tell you. You get actual coaching with me once a month inside of the group as well. So you can always tag me there if you need help with anything, and I will answer within 24 hours. But we also have the live call once a month and a whole portal of education where I walk you through finding your purpose and being aligned with the soul of your business so that you can attract more of your ideal dream clients, make more money. That's definitely part of it. And also feel really good doing it. That's a huge, huge factor. So if you want to be a part of what we've got going on, that link is below in the show notes as well. And we'd love to have you. That's all for now. Until next time, have a great rest of your week. Love you. Bye.